What would you say if a cop looked at you during a traffic stop and said, "Just relax while I take a quick look in your car"? If you say the wrong thing, you can lose your protection in seconds. And once that happens, your simple stop can turn into a full search fast. Hit subscribe right now because what you're about to hear could keep you from talking yourself into a criminal case. And tap like so you can find this again when you need it most, not after your rights are already gone. You need to understand why this moment is so dangerous. When an officer says, "Just relax," it sounds friendly, it sounds small, it sounds like nothing big is happening. But that soft tone can hide a huge move. Most people have no idea that the search often starts before the officer ever opens a door. It starts with your words. It starts with your face. It starts with whether you sound scared, chatty, guilty, or eager to please. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos. The same mistake keeps showing up. Drivers try to be nice. Drivers try to explain everything. Drivers think cooperation means giving away every right they have. Let me show you exactly what to say before your car turns into evidence. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn 4 lines that can change the whole stop. You're going to hear the exact words that stop fake casual searches. You're going to learn when to speak, when to shut up, and when to repeat yourself. You're also going to see why your tone matters almost as much as your words. And I'm going to tie this back to real Supreme Court cases in plain English, not lawyer talk. Because when you're on the side of the road, you don't need a lecture. You need a script. You need short lines you can remember under stress. You need words that work when your heart is racing and lights are flashing in your mirror. Here's the reality. Most drivers lose this moment before the search even begins. They start filling the silence. They say things like, "I've got nothing to hide," or "Go ahead, I'm clean," or "Yeah, sure, take a look." They think that makes them look innocent. But innocence is not the issue. Permission is the issue. Once you give permission, you make the officer's job easy. You remove one of the biggest barriers that protects you. And if anything illegal is found, even something forgotten by a friend or family member, your nice guy answer can become the reason that evidence stays in court. Former police officers have confirmed this works both ways. Calm, clear drivers protect themselves better. Nervous overtalkers help the search happen. The first thing you say has to shut down consent. That is the whole game at the start. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line. Keep it short. Keep it flat. Keep it respectful. Do not add a joke. Do not add a speech. Do not say, "Why? What did I do?" Do not say, "I guess that's fine if you need to." You're not there to sound clever. You are there to be clear. Why does this line matter so much? Because a huge number of car searches happen through consent, not a warrant, not some dramatic TV moment, just permission. A simple yes from you. If you clearly say no, the officer now has to rely on some other legal reason. That might be probable cause, which means facts that point to evidence of a crime. That might be a safety issue. That might be an arrest situation. But your clear refusal takes away the easiest path. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Schneckloth v. Bustamonte, the court said, consent searches can be valid if the consent is voluntary. Plain English. If you say yes on your own, that yes can open the door wide. So your job is simple. Do not open that door. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, I don't mind." Then the stop moves from a ticket into a full search. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to find some other legal reason without your help. Watch what happens when you use that line the right way. The officer may try to soften it. "Hey, if you've got nothing to hide, why not let me check?" That is pressure. That is not law. Your answer does not change. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." They may say, "It'll only take a second." Same answer. They may say, "Just relax." Same answer. They may act offended. Same answer. You're not being rude. You're protecting your rights. This is 100% legal. Now let's talk about what happens if you do not use this line. Maybe you've got an old bag in the back seat from a friend. Maybe your teenager left something in the glove box. Maybe there's a legal item that looks suspicious. Maybe there's nothing at all. It does not matter. Once you say yes, the officer starts looking for anything. And if they find a reason to keep going, your stop gets longer, your stress gets higher, and your own permission becomes the reason the search stands up in court. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because they know clear refusal matters. The cleaner your words are, the harder it is for anyone to twist them later. Still watching? Good. Drop a comment if you've ever been told to just relax during a stop, because that phrase changes everything. The next move is about the clock. A traffic stop is supposed to be about the stop. Your license, your registration, your insurance, the ticket or warning. Then you leave. That's the normal mission, but officers often try to stretch that moment into a fishing trip. They start asking where you're coming from, where you're going, who owns the car, why you look nervous, why you took that road, why your hands are shaking, why your friend sat weird in the passenger seat 3 blocks ago. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. If the reason for the stop is done, the officer does not get unlimited time just to hunt for something else. You look at the officer and say this: am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact 9 words. That question does 2 powerful things. First, it forces the moment into the open. The officer now has to decide whether the stop is still active or not. Second, it protects you from standing there in limbo while the stop drags on for no clear reason. You are not yelling, you're not challenging authority, you are asking a clean legal question. Why does this work? Because time matters. In Rodriguez v. United States, the Supreme Court said, police cannot extend a traffic stop longer than needed just to investigate other crimes unless they have extra legal reason. Plain English? They cannot keep you there forever hoping something turns up. If the traffic job is done, they need a real reason to keep digging. Your question puts pressure on that issue. It makes the stop either move forward or end. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when a stop starts getting weird. Bad way? Most drivers say, I guess I'll wait, and keep chatting. Then the stop grows longer and gives the officer more room to build suspicion. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to either state a reason or let the stop move toward ending. Watch what happens next. Sometimes the officer says, you're not free to leave. Okay, now you know you're being detained. That means you stop volunteering, you stop guessing, you stop trying to win them over with random talk. Sometimes the officer says, hang tight, but gives no reason. Ask again calmly after the ticket business is done. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? Keep your voice steady, keep your hands visible, keep your words few. If the officer says you are free to go, go. Do not stay and keep chatting. Do not ask if you can explain. Do not reopen the door they just closed. A lot of drivers make the mistake of thinking more talking means more safety. It usually means the opposite. The longer you talk, the more chances you create for small details to sound off. Your timeline changes by a minute. Your story sounds too polished. Your answer does not match your passenger's answer. Your joke lands wrong. Your normal nervousness gets called suspicious. That is why this question matters so much. It is not magic, but it forces the stop back to its lane. The third tactic is the one that saves you when the officer starts fishing with questions. And this is where many drivers completely wreck themselves. You feel pressure, so you start trying to sound innocent. You explain your whole day. You explain why you're tired. You explain why there's a backpack in the back seat. You explain why your cousin borrowed the car last week. Stop doing that. Here's exactly what you say. I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. That line is short, calm, and powerful. Now, before you say it, understand what it does. It does not mean you refuse to hand over your license. You still comply with basic traffic stop commands. You still provide your documents if the law requires it. You still keep your hands visible. But you do not become your own witness. You do not help build the story against yourself. If the officer asks, where are you coming from? Or is there anything illegal in the car? Or who owns that bag? Your answer is the same. I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. Bad way. Most drivers say, no, that bag isn't mine. My friend left it there. Then they hand the officer a reason to dig deeper. Good way. Smart drivers say, I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. Then they stop feeding the stop with new details. This ties into your Fifth Amendment, your right not to help the government build a case against you with your own words. In simple terms, you do not have to solve the investigation for them. Yes, roadside rules can get tricky. Yes, different states have some differences, but the core idea is the same. If you start talking freely, those words can be used later. If you clearly say you are not answering questions, you protect yourself far better. This is 100% legal. And let me make this real for you. Say the officer asks, if there's nothing in the car, why are you nervous? That is a trap. If you say, I'm not nervous, you sound nervous. If you say, I just hate cops, now you sound hostile. If you say, my friend smoked in here yesterday, you just made things worse. If you say, I'm not answering questions without a lawyer, you stop the leak. That is the goal. Stop the leak. Miranda v. Arizona is the famous case people know, but the simple lesson for you is this. Silence works best when you clearly say you are using it. Do not just sit there muttering or shrugging. Use words. Use your rights out loud. Keep them plain. Keep them respectful. And do not switch back and forth by refusing first and then babbling later. The moment you decide to stop answering, really stop answering. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most drivers. Hit that like button if you want the last tactic, because this next part is where a lot of searches get locked in. The fourth tactic matters when the officer changes the pressure from talking to action. Maybe they say, step out for me. Maybe they say, open the trunk. Maybe they say, just unlock the door so we can clear this up. Listen closely because this is critical. There is a huge difference between refusing consent and resisting physically. You do not want to cross that line. So here is the safest script. First say, "Officer, is that a request or an order?" If it is a request, you answer, "I do not consent to any searches." If it is an order, you comply physically and say, "I am complying, but I do not consent to any searches." That second sentence is gold. It shows you are not fighting. It also makes clear you are not giving permission. That matters later. Pennsylvania versus Mimms says an officer can generally order a driver out of a car during a lawful stop. Plain English, you usually do need to step out if ordered, but stepping out is not the same as saying yes to a search. Big difference. So if you are ordered out, get out calmly. Close the door behind you if you can do it safely. Do not argue on the roadside. Do not yank away. Do not start lecturing. Just comply and keep your non-consent clear. Bad way. Most drivers say, okay, I'll open everything and start helping. Then they turn an order into full permission. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I'm complying, but I do not consent to any searches." Then they obey without signing away their rights. This is where people get confused. They think if an officer sounds confident, they have to start opening containers, popping trunks, or giving up keys. Not always. That is why your first question matters. Is that a request or an order? If it is a request, you can refuse. If it is an order, do not fight the moment. Make your objection clear and let the legal fight happen later, not on the pavement. That is how smart drivers protect themselves. And if the officer says, "Why are you making this hard?" your answer is not a speech. It is not attitude. It is one clean sentence. "I am not consenting to any searches." That is it. The more you repeat short, calm lines, the less room there is for confusion later. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and former police officers have confirmed this works, because clear language changes how the stop gets recorded and remembered. Now, let's pull the law together in simple English so you actually remember it. Schneckloth v. Bustamonte tells you why refusing consent matters. If your permission is voluntary, the permission can make a search legal. Rodriguez v. United States tells you why the timing question matters. Police cannot stretch a normal traffic stop longer than needed just to investigate other crimes. Pennsylvania v. Mimms tells you why physical compliance and verbal refusal must be separated. An officer can usually order you out, but that does not mean you agreed to a search. Those three cases connect directly to the script you just learned. Refuse consent. Question the delay. Comply without surrendering your rights. Now picture this with me. You're driving home at night. Lights flash behind you. You pull over. Your heart jumps. The officer walks up and says, "You drifted over the line." He takes your license and comes back a minute later smiling. Then he says, "You seem nervous. Just relax. Mind if I take a quick look in your car?" The wrong way goes like this. You laugh because you want to seem cool. You say, "Sure, I've got nothing to hide." He opens the door. Then he sees a bag. He asks who it belongs to. You panic and say it belongs to your cousin. He asks where you were coming from. You give a long story. Your passenger gives a different one. Now the stop is bigger. Now the search is happening. Now your own words are everywhere. The right way is clean. He says, "Mind if I take a quick look?" You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." He pushes and says, "Why not, if everything is fine?" You say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" He keeps asking where you're coming from and what is in the bag. You say, "I'm not answering questions without a lawyer." Then he says, "Step out of the car." You answer, "I'm complying, but I do not consent to any searches." Your words stay tight. Your rights stay clear. You do not help the stop grow legs. You do not give easy consent. You do not build the case with your own mouth. Even if the officer searches anyway, your clear words can matter later in court because the record shows you never agreed. Next week, I'm dropping the video on what to say when cops claim they smell weed coming from your car. Subscribe right now because that one catches drivers every single day and you do not want to miss it. Hit subscribe so you catch that weed smell video next week. Smash like if this script gave you words you can actually use under pressure. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay calm, stay clear, and protect your rights.